Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our event, Reflecting on 2020 and Moving Forward with 2020 Vision. My name is Nancy Yap, and I'm the Executive Director of CAUSE. This year has been a year of transitions and adaptation. It has also been a year of historic civic engagement and collaboration. Tonight, you will hear some of these stories reflecting on all that has happened in 2020 and how that is shaping CAUSE's movement forward. But first, let's begin with remarks from our special guests. Here to introduce our speakers is Charlie Lieu, Chair of the CAUSE Board of Directors.
Thank you, Nancy. CAUSE is successful because we have received support from our elected and political leaders in this country. And I'd like to introduce some of them in this special event today to celebrate with us as we reflect on 2020. Asian American women have achieved phenomenal success in American politics. Currently, the three Asian American women serving in the United States Senate. One of them is joining us this evening. Senator Duckworth currently holds a seat that once occupied by President Barack Obama from Illinois. And she is an Iraq war hero. And every time she visits California, she would always find time with our CAUSE participants. So, so we catch up, talk about politics and how the young leader can contribute. Of course, this year she couldn't come to California, but she will be able to join us by video as we celebrate and reflecting on 2020. Senator Duckworth.
Hi, everyone. I wish we could have all gathered in person for this year's end of year event, but I'm so glad that I get to participate at least virtually. Thanks in no small part to the help of engaged folks like you, we are all able to look forward to a stable, effective, and empathetic administration again, once President-elect Joe Biden is sworn in just a few short weeks away. We will soon have a president who has a deep respect for the dignity of every person, including Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. We will have a president who doesn't use derogatory and offensive language to describe the virus like Donald Trump continues to do. We're able to look forward to the leadership of a president who projects confidence rather than chaos like Donald Trump is doing with his political purges at the Pentagon and our cybersecurity agencies that put not only our troops, but our entire nation at greater risk. And thanks to your hard work and the hard work of so many others, I am looking forward to finally working with a president who does not see our nation's cities as an enemy that needs to be ostracized. I can't deny that this transition has been unlike others in recent memory, but Donald Trump can continue to embarrass himself in court. He can argue that only voters for himself should count, and he can lie about anything he wants. Believe me, he's proven to us that he knows how to lie, but none of it will change the fact that on January 20th, Joe Biden will be president and Donald Trump will be just another loudmouth on Twitter. The AAPI community is one of the fastest growing and most important voting blocs in the country. Your hard work in these difficult and disruptive times played a big role this past November, and it will continue to make an impact as we look ahead. With so much at stake right now, from our national security to our state and local funding to the impact of COVID-19 on all of us, all of your hard work has to be so important to get us to this moment where we're on the brink of success. I'm hopeful that in the coming days, we'll see movement on a comprehensive COVID relief package to finally give working families and small businesses across the country the help that they need. But even if Mitch McConnell continues to obstruct progress on it, it will be the first thing that Joe Biden and Senate Democrats will be focused on in the new Congress. Each and every one of you has done and will keep doing your part to make sure that we can do that. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you, keep it up. And I hope to see many of you in person once again, as soon as it's safe for all of us to do so and to give each other a big old hug. Thanks, everyone. Be well.
We value our friendship with Senator Duckworth because she always speaks her mind. As chair of CAUSE, I need to put out a disclaimer that CAUSE is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization that does not support political candidates nor engage in political campaigns. Coming up next is Congressman Ted Liu. CAUSE and Ted went back a long way. We still remember the days young attorney Ted Liu, and Betty used to attend cause events when they dated. And throughout the years, we saw Senator Congressman Liu first get elected to City Council of the City of Torrance, State Assembly, and then State Senate, and now Congress. In the same time, Congressman also saw the cause grew from a small community organization to the current state of quite influential and important player in politics and civic affairs in California. And Ted is a Stanford computer science graduate, Air Force veteran, congressman of national reputation, as well as a Twitter political sensation. Ted, welcome to Cause.
Thank you so much, Charlie. And I am deeply honored to be at the Cause event today, and want to, first of all, thank you, Charlie, for starting Cause and for your many years of service to the community and to your board as well. And yes, I do remember all those events I attended with Betty. As some of you may know, Betty is now the president of the Torrance School Board. And so they're working very hard to try to reopen schools in the middle of a pandemic. And just want to be very clear about the state of the Asian American community. We are the fastest growing community in America, according to US Census. And according to a Pew Research report that came out about 1.5 years ago, there are now more immigrants from Asia to the United States than from any other region in the world. And so we see this growth continue, and Asian Americans are increasing not only in states like California, but also in states like Georgia, which is an important swing state. And some new data came out showing that in 2020, over 50% of Asian Americans that voted in Georgia had not voted in 2016. So you're seeing this surge of Asian Americans, and we've now gone from being marginalized to the margin of victory. So now is an exciting time to be part of the Asian American community. At the same time, we're also facing challenges. We know that with the start of this pandemic, Asian Americans started getting hit with hate crimes and hate incidents because some people thought we were somehow carrying the virus. There was an Asian American family in Texas that was stabbed because the perpetrator thought that the family members were carrying the virus. And we know that the Asian Pacific Policy and Planning Council has been tracking these events, and there have now been over 2,000 hate crimes and hate incidents against Asian Americans. So one reason I led a bipartisan letter of over 150 members of Congress to the Department of Justice, asking them to do more to combat hate crimes against Asian Americans. It also, frankly, was unhelpful when the President of the United States would use racist terms like Kung Flu. That only added fuel to the fire. With the incoming Biden administration, very pleased that the next president and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris understand the beautiful diversity of America, and they're not going to go around making racist statements against the Asian American community. So hopefully we'll see less hate crimes being directed at Asian Americans. And it's important for organizations like Cause to continue your great work to inform the community, to raise awareness of issues that disproportionately affect the community. And I look forward to working with all of you as we continue to make California and America a better place to live, work, and play.
Thank you, Ted. Next up, Cause would like to congratulate Congresswoman-elect Young Kim, recently elected to the U.S. Congress. Prior to November 3rd of this year, no Korean American woman ever served in Congress. And now we have 3. And 2 of them reside in Southern California. And Young Kim has been a longtime friend and supporter of Cause back 20-some years when she worked at Congressman Ed Roy's office. And she was a bridge between the congressman and the Asian Pacific American community in the East San Gabriel Valley. And every year, interns from the Cause Leadership Academy would intern at Congressman Roy's office under the supervision of Young Kim. Later, when she was elected to the Assembly, she continued that collaborative effort with cause. And now we congratulate Congresswoman-elect Young Kim and look forward to working with her in the coming years. Congresswoman-elect Kim.
Hi, I'm Congresswoman-elect Young Kim. I want to welcome everyone joining the Cause End of the Year event, and thank you for having me. Despite the challenges we face with COVID-19, I'm glad you have found a way to bring everyone together and celebrate everything that Cause has done this year. Even during these uncertain times, you were able to effectively shift and conduct your numerous services and programs virtually. And I want to thank you for all your efforts. Your dedication to supporting and developing our next generation of Asian American leaders and promoting civic engagement is critically important. 2020 has been a challenging year, but it still has been a promising year where Asian Americans have made history. I'm proud to be one of the 3 first Korean American women ever elected to serve in the United States Congress. 2 are right here in Southern California. This shows that in America, anything is possible and that the American dream is very much alive. America is a country where an immigrant can come, build a business, have a family, and rise to be your representative in the United States Congress. I'd love to see more Asian American leaders join me to be part of this national conversation and give back to American society and provide much needed perspectives. When I was in the State Assembly, I worked closely with Cause. I was especially excited to have interns from the Cause Leadership Academy in our office, and I look forward to welcoming more interns in the coming year. I'm very happy that young leaders who have gone through the Cause programs are succeeding, and I would encourage you to continue to be engaged. Our voices can only be heard when we speak up and get involved. We're truly living in challenging times, and the pandemic has upended everyone's lives, but I still have been thankful and amazed by the spirit of the American people. The community has stepped up by volunteering their time to help our vulnerable population, donate food to those in need, and provide personal protective equipment to our healthcare workers who have been fighting this pandemic on the front lines. This is exactly why together we will get through this crisis. This is why I have hope for 2021, and I'm excited about what the new year will bring. I look forward to working with you to be your voice, your advocate, and to empower our Asian American community, and to ensure that America comes back stronger than ever, and that the American dream that I was able to achieve is available for everyone and for our next generation. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman-elect Kim, and thank you to Senator Duckworth and Congressman Ted Liu. 2020 was an important year for Cause. I remember back about 1 year ago at this time, Cause board had to make some key decisions. We had to go through a leadership transition among staff. And then we need to recognize that our leadership development program need to continue to grow and expand. And also 2020 was an important election year, plus the year of the census. And Cause need to be involved so that the Asian Pacific American community could be more visible. And when you talk about elections, you would always have public opinion polls. And in the past, quite often, minority groups, particularly Asian Pacific Americans, are often ignored in these public opinion polls because the excuse has always been the sample size is not big enough, we are too difficult to reach out to, and we're too diverse, and on and on. Cause determined to change that. We make extra effort to do a public opinion polling with oversampling of Asian Pacific Americans. Not only did we do it for our community, we reach out to the African American and Latino community to encourage them to collaborate. And then we use the scientifically obtained data to talk about our opinions, our feelings, and how we could work together and promote better understanding on many different webinars, the pages of Los Angeles Times, plus National News Network. And in all those important activities, our new Executive Director, Nancy Yap, has been at the center of this. And as many of you know, Nancy is a seasoned professional nonprofit executive. He is also a very experienced leadership program development expert. And we all know, we have seen her also as a great storyteller, sharing her Asian American experience, citing scientifically obtained data. So CAUSE has made an impact because of the leadership of Nancy Yap. And we'd like to welcome our new Executive Director, Nancy, to talk about her reflection of 2020.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you for that introduction and for sharing a little bit about where CAUSE was last year. You know, for me, I think so much of the work I've done the last 20 years has been not only in leadership development, but also managing Asian American artists. So Charlie's right, like I believe in stories, and I also believe in the diversity of stories, and that showing a whole range of these stories also shows a range of paths for APIs like myself. Stories that resonate with me and my history remind me of what's possible and what we can do next. The data is really important in telling that story, but so is the visibility. And today, sharing this space with other Asian women leaders, as well as a Congress member who grew up in my hometown, just really reminds me of the power of seeing yourself in the leaders around you and the leaders who are doing the work ahead of you. So I think for me, part of being here at CAUSE is about that story. Since July, I've been getting to know the organization, and everyone I've met is just so passionate about both civic engagement and the API community. I've had the opportunity to learn more about CAUSE's past. I've had to find creative ways to adapt CAUSE for the changes of 2020, and I've been inspired about the possibilities for the future. CAUSE has a history of convening impactful API leaders, and we continued that this year. Here are a few of the ways that we did that. This year, as part of our vote initiative, we held 2 events with the Secretary of State, Alex Padilla, and executive directors of API nonprofit organizations. We virtually convened the CAUSE Leadership Network so that members could share their experiences of leading during this time of COVID-19. And as Charlie mentioned, we also did the polling, but we did that polling in partnership with Hispanis Organized for Political Equality and the Los Angeles Urban League. Together with those organizations, we launched the California Community Poll about race relations. We were featured in the Los Angeles Times, and we spoke about cross-cultural issues at a dozen events to over 1,000 people. And that's not all. CAUSE also has a history of delivering impactful programs that prepare leaders to take that next step in their public service journey. This year, we continued that work, adapting the CAUSE Leadership Institute for professionals and the CAUSE Leadership Academy for students to virtual platforms. 28 professionals received skills building and had access to elected officials and policy experts. 8 students received training, mentorship, and a summer internship that was focused on the 2020 census outreach. They reached out to over 33,000 people through text banking and created a social media toolkit. Both cohorts also had an opportunity to build relationship with leaders that shared their values, something that was not easy to do while social distancing this year. Each year, CAUSE's network grows and more leaders prepare to take that next step. Whether it's running for office or advocating for APIs through community leadership, the network stays ready to lead, to advise, and to make that pivotal connection. So how do we move forward in 2021? We will continue the work that has been impactful this year by convening leaders, having cross-cultural dialogues, and delivering impactful programs. We will nurture what we have begun to grow. We will challenge CAUSE alumni to step into leadership positions, support our network as we engage at decision-making tables, and we will find solutions together with other communities of color. And during this difficult time, CAUSE will continue to provide data that identifies the gaps and shapes the path forward. For example, this year's California Community Poll Series has given us data that shares a story of an API community that has experienced hate during this pandemic, a community that believes in diverse representation, but does not see itself in solutions like Prop 16, a community that is concerned about COVID, concerned the worst is still to come, and is eager to take the vaccine. The poll series tells these stories, inspires cultural dialogue, and finds out how our community feels right now. It gives us the information to advocate for API communities as solutions are being shaped locally and nationally. That said, I'd like to invite on a few CAUSE alumni who are currently shaping these solutions. First, Dr. Saro, who's Long Beach City Councilwoman for District 6. She's also a CAUSE Leadership Institute alum from 2016. And then Dr. Jaseet Bains, who's Chairwoman of the California Healthcare Workforce Policy Commission and CAUSE Leadership Institute alum from 2019. Welcome to you both. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Sure. I think we're going to start off by just asking you both to tell us about your journey to this position and what a few of the key factors were that led you there.
Sure. First of all, thank you for having us again. This cause has been monumental to a lot of leadership building for me personally. I think when I first came to cause in 2019, I was just appointed to the position of commissioner by Governor Brown, and then Secretary of Appointments going to Pascal Rogers. And I remember coming to the commission and wanting to do more, wanting to learn how to do more. I think a lot of people want to do a lot, but how do you do that? How do you get to a position where you're able to implement change? And how do you implement change? I think there's a lot of great ideas out there, amazing ideas, but how is it that you implement those ideas? How is it that you take accountability for those ideas and implement it in a way where you're able to make the impact that you are meant to make? And I think cause challenged that on me quite a bit. They put me in touch with thought-provoking leaders outside of my sector. I think as a physician, I've spent my whole life studying and in healthcare, and I, didn't have much experience in other aspects of, other areas. And I think cause really challenged me. And it challenged me to think outside of the healthcare field and see, yes, healthcare is important, but what are the economic impacts of our decisions that affect the healthcare of my patients as well? Because we can sit here and, continue to provide access to healthcare, but if a patient cannot get healthcare insurance because their corporation went under due to legislation, then what are we really doing? Can we really even help that person? So there's a lot of questions on the table, and it really challenged me. Right now, currently, I'm deployed to the Porterville ACS COVID-19 surge site that was put together by CalMet and the Emergency Medical Services Authority of California. And I'm honored for the opportunity to be here to see patients, to provide my skills at a time where it's critically needed. COVID-19 pandemic is something unlike anything we've ever seen before. And this year was very key to understanding the public health and health disparities that exist in our community, have existed. I think the biggest question from this year really is, what happened that made us shut down? What is it that happened? And really, if you look at it, we didn't have capacity for the number of people that were getting sick. And the question remains, why don't we have capacity? as a developed country, why don't we have capacity for all these people getting sick? For a healthcare system that's supposed to be in a developed country, why are we lacking? So CODS really invoked that a lot in me, challenged my thinking. And I think that's where my journey began. And the key factors, of course, was thinking outside of the box and stepping outside your comfort zone.
So I, never thought I was going to run for office. I just got sworn in to Long Beach City Council to serve for District 6 seat. And I believe that it really is my life experiences, and I think just pursuit of, I think for me, having grown up in a community that's been through a genocide and it's grown up as a refugee, knowing that my parents were always wondering where their family members were, what were you going to do next? It was like this more than intense survival mode. There was this intense traumatic experience on top of trying to figure out how to resettle. And I think that, my experience in having to be an advocate early on to help my parents and community navigate, in addition to also figuring out how to navigate school myself, really just develop all of these, I think, experience and passion to serve in the sense of helping others, knowing that we are all kind of lost in this community, in some sense of kind of how we're feeling even right now in this COVID pandemic, right? And so it's been a really driven by purpose, which is why I decided to run against the 13-year incumbent, right? My race definitely was not easy in that it wasn't an open seat. I ran against somebody who's even considered a legend, who's lived in the district for 75 years. And, everyone's told me, we just don't think you're going to win, doubt on top of doubt. And being who I am is like, well, I'm the one that knows myself. I know my ability, and I know how to run campaigns, having been a labor organizer, and connecting and working and moving people from inaction to action. So I was able to get a lot of people who've never been in part of the civic engagement process to volunteer and to vote, and not just Cambodians, but also Spanish speakers and others that are in our district. So I feel that it's really about not being afraid because you're not doing, you don't think you're doing the what's approved or not approved, or always needing approval. For me, it's just doing what's right for you. And that's what's right for me. I felt it was the right time. And I think that while it's an honor for me to become the first Cambodian American to serve in Long Beach, it's an honor to be able to I think, feel that I made the right decision in having won a race that was really tough. It was a large margin by 20%. So that's where, how I got to this point, and the work's just beginning, as I think we all are feeling it now in the kind of second surge of this pandemic. So I'm honored to be here as a panelist, with Dr. Yasmin, and as well as I think with all of you all. Unfortunately can't see you, which is really strange because I feel like I'm talking to myself all the time in a virtual setting.
Thank you both for sharing. And I think also hearing both of your stories where your experience and expertise combined with what you were passionate about, also with timing and just taking that jump, but also taking it in a way that you knew the risk and you went for it. Dr. Saro, I was really appreciative of the way you shared that story. I know that the Cause Leadership Institute was part of both of your journeys. And I know, Dr. Bains, you shared a little bit about that already. So I'd like to start with Dr. Saro. Just tell us a little bit about how the Cause Leadership Institute was part of that journey, but also I think share maybe some advice for folks who are in that moment where they know that they have that expertise and they're kind of trying to decide what to do next in terms of their own public service.
I was part of the inaugural, I think, Political Institute back in 2016 when it just started. And that was also the time I was exploring. I was working for former State Senator Ricardo Lara at that time and had considered running. And so the Political Institute came at the right time and where I wanted to explore the political field. I feel like every time I moved, I have a new job, I change sector. I went from labor, nonprofit, and then I went into public service. And so it was a great time to meet and hear from guest speakers, as well as understand kind of a little bit of the nuts and bolts of running a campaign. So that was really helpful for me to be exposed to that and also meet other participants who either were already in office and maybe thinking about moving into higher office. So it was helpful to have others going through a similar experience that I could speak with. And as far as I think advice is, I think I kind of shared it earlier, is really, you know yourself the best. You know what you're passionate about. Hopefully you continue to, if anything, find yourself through the exploration of the work you do. And then you keep following, I think, that process of figuring out what your passion and your purpose is. Sometimes it's not always clear, but I think it's always taking a chance whether or not you feel you'll succeed or not, whether or not your parents support you. I mean, let me tell you, every time I tell my parents I'm gonna do something, they're just like, what? But then them being refugees, they're like, okay, well, do what you want, just don't get arrested or don't get pregnant at that time, right? So I had that experience of just don't do all of these things that'll get you in a lot of trouble, but at the same time, was able to give me the freedom to explore it because I was an advocate for myself. So for everybody, I guess, even if you're still in, thinking about changing your career, it's like not too late if you've been in one sector for a long time. It's kind of the cause training or that allows you to kind of think about pivoting as well. So.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And then Dr. Bains, is there anything you want to add in terms of maybe add more to what you shared earlier?
I wanted to echo everything said prior. Absolutely. It's really about stepping outside of your comfort zone, and it's about learning who you are, what you represent, and the years and years of generations prior to you that have been fighting for you to have this moment and honoring that by having that moment. And then also, thanking and having mentors along the way that can be there for you. I was blessed to have quite a few people that I was able to reach out to, Annie Lamb, Charlie Wu, thank you so much for creating Cause, of course, and then Justine, Nancy, all you guys at Cause. I think you guys really encourage and inspire a lot. And so a lot of this has to do with your guys' leadership as well.
No, thank you for that. And I think it's something I'm also experiencing with the network also, is just how interconnected it is in these moments, but also how willing everyone in the network is to just really have that phone call or have that touch point when somebody just has a question or wants to know a little bit more. So I feel like I'm also getting to know the network, and even though I know that, I continue to be surprised at how generous folks are with their time and their expertise. I'd love to hear a little bit for both of you. 2020 was both a big year, a challenging year. I'd just love to hear some reflections of 2020 from you and some of the memorable things that are shaping your plans for 2021.
Do you want to go first, Dr. Bains? I went first on the last one. I'll make sure we take turn.
So much to be said. That's such a loaded question. I think the pros and cons, most memorable about 2020 for me was seeing the adaptability of the world, really, right? We really came together to respond to a public health crisis, and we responded. It was amazing to see that adaptability, the resilience, the people, the stories of so many stories of people that, you know, donated their time, got out of their comfort zones, and were there for others. There's so many stories outside of healthcare even as well. And I think, you know, in continuing that fight, you know, I would love to say COVID-19 is going away tomorrow, but it's not. I think we realize that, and continuing fighting for that, continuing fighting for equality. I think this year has opened our eyes to health disparities, racial disparities, and continue fighting for those disparities. In healthcare itself, I mean, I've been fighting for healthcare a very long time. I remember having a conversation with Charlie where I'm like, I just don't know. This is about a year ago. I said, I just don't know, how do I fight for healthcare? You know, there's so much going on. And he said, well, if you want to fight for it, you can't just be at the table. You have to be creating that menu at that table. And it really hit home for me when I was elected chair of the California Healthcare Workforce Policy Commission, because it really, you know, got me thinking that's true. You can't just have these ideas. You got to figure out ways to implement them. How do you create equality and access to healthcare? In my little town of Taft, I was just trying to lead my community of Taft forward. I was seeing problems. I was seeing, you know, the health disparities that were happening in the socioeconomic world, the mental health problems. Why is it that there's so much substance abuse? Why is it that so many people are fighting mental health problems in America right now? Why is it that we have the highest maternal neonatal mortality rate? Why is it that caregivers have such a hard time taking care of end-of-life care decisions for their loved ones? Why is human trafficking a problem in America? And worst of all, why don't we have enough PPE? I mean, it's crazy the amount of things we've learned. And, you know, in a lot of ways, there was a mask that came on our faces, but a huge mask came off of our eyes, really, in 2020. And the dirty laundry of healthcare was aired out, because this is a problem that's been happening for years. For years, we've been seeing ICU capacity at max. Every winter, we've been seeing that. This year, it's worse than any other year, because now we have another pandemic on top of it. What's happening to those gunshot wounds? What's happening to those people that are having heart attacks? When we're having ICUs that are overwhelmed, are those people even getting the care? What's happening to people in recovery? What's happening to people with their mental health? So many questions that have to be answered in 2021, and so much work to be done. And so I'm honored to have the position that I have on the Workforce Policy Commission. We've been trying to increase healthcare workforce, which is something, how to utilize RNs, how to increase our RN workforce, how to utilize, you know, the RNs were the most impact. Our nurses are our true healthcare heroes of this year. They have been working day in, day out. And I really want to give, you know, a huge applause to our nurses that are working. Those are really their healthcare heroes this year, not me.
Okay, so I would say don't run a campaign during a pandemic. It was not a choice. You know, when the stay-at-home order occurred, it happened right after my primary ended, and then everyone was forced into, you know, the lockdown that we've all experienced. So, I mean, I think that this has been a jolt to the entire world about how much our lives can change drastically. And I think that it's been a lot about learning how to cope. And it's not something I think new to me or my community in the sense of having to deal with trauma, right? Of having gone through a genocide and resettlement. So for me, it's been and as I've had conversations with all of the community members, it's like, it's just about, well, what's the frame of mental mind can we kind of really control for ourselves to manage through this challenging time. And some people do it humor. I do. I try, obviously that was my coping mechanism growing up. When things got heavy or challenging, it was always through humor. So I think that it's obviously we're having a lot of challenges, and you've asked a lot of great questions, Dr. Bains, and it's something we're going to be confronted with even beyond the pandemic, right? So it's always going to be great to ensure we're developing leaders and engaging people in the conversation. And I think that, you know, for me, it's always been that it's about how do we work with others. I find that many people have become much more generous. Obviously, we've seen the extremes, right? Those who just don't even do their part by wearing a mask. And I think that it's really seeing how we can make sure that we really cultivate that spirit of generosity and kindness that exists. That's what I want to continue to do as a council member going into 2021 in our very daunting time. But I think that that's the spirit of what I want to make sure we keep encouraging people to do, is to check in with each other. You don't have to have money to help others. You know, give people a call. It's so easy to be isolated in this virtual world. And, you know, it's just hearing about people committing suicide pretty often. It's with a range of age people. So I really think that if anything, it's just making sure to check in with people and check in yourself as we're going kind of into this new year. And that's the spirit that I'm going into, is, you know, humor and and generosity or just kindness by checking in with people. So that's really how I think I'm gonna go into 2021, and then somehow kicking COVID's butt along the way. I don't know, but we'll figure out how right? We're doing it in every way we can.
Absolutely.
No. Yeah, thank you. I mean, both of you are just, you know, you're asking a lot of questions, but also I think in listening to you both, I'm just really excited that you're both in the positions that you're in. I think it's a real asset to all of us that you're there, as well as just hearing some of the way you're perceiving not just the challenges ahead of us, but also knowing your involvement in our communities just also makes us feel like we're there with you. So I hope that that's how it feels. I'd love to end with maybe a short story about something sort of surprising and positive that you've experienced this year. As we kind of end our year as well, I thought I'd just ask you both if maybe you had one.
Something positive. You know, this should be a lot easier to answer, right, in a time of COVID. But I mean, I think that's I have to say that the positive things in running this campaign is that in a pandemic time it was amazing that the support I felt like I had when I ran my primary campaign, it just shifted virtually. Like everybody got into formation in a way where it was just like a natural, okay, well, we'll just adapt to it and we'll raise money from whoever we need to. A lot of my donors were just, you know, grassroots people. So everyone was just still like, okay, well, we're going to try to do this and this and this. So I feel like that was the most positive thing, is just people being able to adapt and know that if we stay focused, we can still get things done. So that for me continues to still inspire me, and it sticks with me. And I'm still in the midst of processing all of it at the moment.
Yeah, I guess something very positive that I learned this year more than anything was my patience and TAF taught me a lot. Patience teach you things, and they helped grow me. And I realize that more and more, especially when I'm at the ACS site here, especially when I'm working day to day in Bakersfield. The stories of my patients, the experiences that they have angered me have challenged me, have gotten me to a point to ask questions, because I see so much injustice that happens on this level. And I think being on the ground, on the front lines, working, I've seen a lot of injustices, and having that patient voice and representing those voices and those experiences is actually a huge honor for me, because I know not very many people are see it the way that I do when I encounter a patient. I don't see a patient as the person in front of me. I see them as a collective group of experiences. You know, they are who they are, whether they are addicted to drugs, whether they are lacking economic ways to see a doctor, whether they just got out of prison. They are who they are because of decisions that society has made. Along the way, there are decisions that they make as well. But the biggest positive thing is to learn how to accept someone for who they are and not judge them. And that's something I learned from my patients, and I will always be grateful for my time that I was in Taft. That's something that I miss. I miss my little town of Taft very much. But I hope that I can utilize the experiences and memories of what I learned there to help create better environment for them. And I just hope that, you know, their experiences are magnifold, or are taken to a higher level. Those are my biggest wishes.
Thank you. Thank you both. And thank you both for joining us today. Really just loved having you here and seeing you, getting to know you a little bit better. And just thank you for all the work that you both do. And if there's any way that we can support you more, or if you ever need anything, please reach out. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Sure. And so we're about to wrap up our event. I just want to thank all of our speakers for today. I'm also going to invite Charlie back to join me, as we'd also really want to take a moment and just appreciate the folks who have helped us make things happen this year at Cause. We're going to share some of our sponsors today. And these are just people who've continued to support our work. I'm going to allow, or Charlie, whenever you want to jump in, please feel free.
As I sit here watching the two younger generation leaders, you know, touched by their passion, their commitment, and their potential to contribute, I couldn't help but reflect back on the days when Ted Liu and the young attorney Ted Liu and his lawyer wife, girlfriend at that time, attending Cause and went through all the activities that, like this younger generation. And then Congresswoman-elect Young Kim being a political staffer that always support what Cause did. And also Senator Duckworth, you know, reported to be on the short list of, you know, being considered as vice presidential candidate by President-elect Biden, the closest voice to the White House on behalf of our community. I couldn't help but reflect how far we have gone and how much we can do, and seeing the young people, their determination to contribute, that sort of encouragement for us to really move forward. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank all those people that make Cause possible, particularly this very challenging year. First, I need to recognize the staff under the leadership of Nancy, Justine, Talia, Farah. You have gone beyond your duty. You have learned how to do more with less, and, you know, really rise up to meet the challenge. On behalf of the board, we thank you. We thank you, and we would be here to continue to support you. To our board, I know we face some difficult transition period. We make some difficult decisions, And all the board members roll up their sleeves and make this transition from a very difficult challenge to continued success. Last but not least, we couldn't be here without our sponsors. And I couldn't say enough about what their continuous commitment and generosity towards cause. 2020 was a difficult year. There was a lot of need in the community. And yet, those sponsors that continue to support us as they have in the past, their confidence in us, their support are the encouragement we need, the board needs and the staff needs to really rise up into the next level. And as we all know, that all of them philanthropic people have a choice of many organizations to give to. And yet they chose cause, and we are determined to make sure that we utilize your generosity and your contribution and leverage that, and in return, empower all our fellow nonprofit organizations in the community and the community of color that need uplifting. And we would not disappoint you. So as we reflect back on 2020, we want to honor those that have supported us, that continue to be our friends and supporters. It is only because of their support that we can continue. So Nancy, why don't I invite you back to join me as we thank our sponsors, thank everybody that participated and supported cause, and wish everybody a very happy, safe holiday season.
Thank you, Charlie, and thank you to all of our sponsors. It was a year where I think also it really just showed the relationships, not only the transition to me as executive director, but just in meeting all of our funders, our individual donors, just everyone's generosity and trust in cause was just really a welcoming place for me as executive director. So thank you to everyone. Thank you for coming today. I also wanted to just share one more thing in that not only are we grateful for the support that we have, but we do encourage you to also donate. I think there's a lot of work that has to be done, and we heard a lot from different people today. Cause is going to continue to do that work, but I know for me, one of the reasons I wanted to be here at Cause is that there are a lot of really important things happening right now, a lot of things happening really immediately. And I feel like I've seen generosity from people that is just really touching and overwhelming. But I really encourage you not to just take a look at places you can donate to help right now, but really invest in programs and organizations that are building for the future. And I believe Cause is one of those. The programs that we create, the convening that we do with leaders, and how we shape infrastructure and policy. I think for me, 2021 is going to be a year where Cause will be very pivotal, and we're hoping that you continue to support us and donate to us again this coming year. So thank you all for coming. I do want to invite my team to also turn on their cameras. And I want to take a moment to just thank our board. I know Charlie mentioned it, but our board members really stepped in to doing a lot of the work during the pandemic and have made it such a welcoming place for me. And it really just showed how engaged all of these board members are in this organization. So thank you all for your time. Thank you all for your work. And also thank you to the team. So just welcoming the Cause staff back and saying happy holidays to all of you. Thank you for being here and for spending this time with us today. So again, my team is Justine, Talia, and Farah, who are all on camera right now. Happy holidays, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your year.